Coming up in this video, messed up mediums and mental illness. What happens when you don't work on your shit? This is part of our types of mediumship category in our mediumship development training series. And if you have any questions as we go relating to the topic of this video, drop them in the comments.
So if you are just getting to know us, I'm Heather.
I'm David.
I'm David from
ZenRoseGarden.com.
So let's get into the topic of the day. Alan Kardec, who was a spiritualist teacher, mediumship mentor, described obsessed mediums, which is what today's topic is about.
Right.
This type of medium. Obsessed mediums, in his book on types of mediums, published in 1861, under the title of, the section title, I love this, it's so Victorian era, according to the moral quality of mediums. And he said, obsessed mediums are those who cannot rid themselves of deceptive spirits, but who are fully aware of and regret this obsession.
Can you say drama queens?
That is a little short description, but it's actually a lot more than that when you get into the spiritualist mediumship mentorship material. So
Right.
I think it's important to talk about what mediumship looks like when it goes awry.
Or amok. And here is one of the ways that it shows up, and a really important one, to be able to recognize if you are a mediumship mentor, a student, or just somebody going in for a reading.
Because once I describe it to you, describe it, it's all about me, because there are a few obsessed mediums out there, I am sure, as there have always been through time, who are actually practicing the art of mediumship in the professional world. And I know that you've run up against some of these, because I have.
Dysfunctional mediums, absolutely.
So tip number one, we're going to give you obsession causes. What exactly is obsession? So
the obsession.
Yes, the obsession.
With obsession is obsessive. Okay?
The outside
the
observer.
outside observer may call this condition, and let me know if you've ever heard this term. Possession. 9/10 for the law, right? But in the formal vocab of mediumship, we call it obsession.
Because it isn't always what the outside observer believes it is. Or for that matter, it almost never is what the obsessed medium believes it is.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
So obsession happens when beginning mediums misunderstand or misinterpret the feelings or the sensations of their sensitivities and assume that they are being obsessed by a spirit, without understanding what is really going on with these new subtle sensations and energies happening in their particular development or unfoldment.
So, Kardec's description of obsessed mediums was just centered around being obsessed by, deceptive spirits, but a more expansive explanation is from the Wallace. So Wallace states that, quote, one mind can obtain undue influence over another. We need not go to the spirit world for instances of such domination. They are common enough in this world if we have eyes to see.
Boom.
In other words, the obsessed medium has not first mastered possession of themselves and their own mind, and so are easily influenced by others in the real world.
By their own auto-suggestion.
Which is sort of an old way to say like auto-hypnosis.
Right, and sometimes by the spirit world, right? But just about always, it starts in the mind, with the mind of the obsessed medium. So it's not out in the spirit world. Right. It starts here.
It starts in the mind. So Hudson Tuttle, another spiritualist Victorian era influencer,
a little while ago,
spiritualist theory, said around 1890, said that the medium who is unbiased in his or her own mind cannot be led away from right doing by the influence of mortals or spirits.
So first,
handle your business.
Possess yourself, then you will never be possessed or obsessed by anything.
Because you can't learn to be a master observer if you are obsessed by anything. And a medium is a master observer. Let's get into tip number two, shall we? So most of the time, tip number two, obsession is misplaced blame. The Wallaces observed that in 1910, in their book of obsessed mediums, while sometimes the obsessed medium blamed a living person for an obsession, such as like a curse or a psychic torment of some kind, spirits were most often blamed for the obsession when it was really just the unfolding sensitive's misadjustment to new sensations.
So you got all these new things inside of your body that are opening up, all these things inside of your mind that are opening up, all of these abilities to receive and perceive information, they're all opening up. And if you carry over fear from unresolved shit, it's going to be really difficult for you to kind of conceptualize what that is. So you're going to go to all those unresolved places in your subconscious mind, and it's going to be demons and spirits and possession.
We're gonna quote Wallace a lot today because I think they had a lot to say about the obsessed medium, and they wrote this stuff like 150 years ago at the like birth of spiritualist mediumship. So if a sensitive would like shake, if sensitive shake or feel some kind of strange different way, right? They might attribute the sensation to obsessing spirits and freak out when it could really be explained on purely physiological grounds, such as like an adrenaline release. Right. So we kind of observe that sometimes in a healing session when a person is reliving a trauma of some kind, and in order to release it from the body, a little bit of adrenaline comes in. Right. I don't know if you've ever experienced a little bit of shakes after a healing session.
Especially something really intense.
That comes from old traumas in the body.
Triggering that fight or flight response and that adrenaline rush.
So you have a little trapped adrenaline that comes out, and that will happen sometimes when you're unfolding.
But if you don't know what that is, you're not going to understand it, right? So many people don't understand and are not prepared for any new physiological requirements of certain types of mediumship and end up suffering distress because of not understanding their own personality issues at play, their personal instinctual reactions, right? So they don't know what's going on in their subconscious mind and what's coming to the surface and how it's manifesting in their bodies physically.
So like I said, they were talking about this in the 1860s. So we like to try to take it back to the roots and show, there is a tradition of doing self-growth with your intuitive development, but in our time frame, people just kind of work on the intuitive development and have kind of forgotten about the tradition of wax on, wax off, the old school shamanistic way of opening. Yeah. Wallace said, and I have to quote this directly because it is just too good, that many sensitives, quote, may regard these inclinations and tendencies as due to the influence of the devil, or if they have learned a little of mediumship, they find a scapegoat in obsessing spirits instead of studying human physiology. This is from 1910 when they were talking about this. So this isn't anything new, but you still see people slipping into superstition. Yeah.
So in early stages of development, mediums generally experience strange feelings like Gail was talking about, Cheryl was talking about the twitching, says it really sucks when it hits while I'm driving. But yeah, that kind of a thing where you've got these strange physical sensations and maybe some kind of an excitement, sometimes even a little adrenaline rush coming from this new connection to the spirit world, right? But with uncertainty and unprocessed personal fears, they may imagine that spirits wish to do them harm or wish for them to do or say things which in reality are due to their own unresolved conditions, right?
I can think an example of when you see this kind of come out is when you've got a medium who's saying a lot of scary shit. I mean, when you see that the medium is just saying all of these frightening things like, you better, that it's a clue that they might be an obsessed medium.
Or have some kind of unresolved emotional foundation that they haven't worked on.
You're kind of getting a transference from the medium subconscious that's sort of like confusing it with the spirit world and spurting out a fear-based
message.
Thing.
Yeah.
So that is technically an obsessed medium. So I love this example of obsession from a case study of obsessed mediumship. I was describing a lady who, who was training with mediumship. This is a case study I read. And she was training for mediumship, and she was saying, I feel like that somebody's trying to psychically attack me. They're taking over my mind. And then when she found out that wasn't true, she kind of switched over into, no, I think it's spirits that are possessing me. They won't leave me alone. They have this evil influence over me. And so she was attaching way too much importance
drama
to the sensations that she was experiencing and imagined that they were like way worse than they were. So what was happening was that she was giving, when you've got an obsessed medium that's in that kind of sphere, they're really close
the
to their
victim mentality.
They're really close to their personal fears. Okay, so what happens is they're giving themselves like an auto-suggestion, a dominating suggestion that is bringing that fear to the forefront.
It
right?
validates that fear. It's a suggestion that this thing must be real because I'm afraid. And this thing must be creating a reason for me to be afraid, so it must be evil.
So even though they're anxious for relief, like I really don't want to feel all this obsession, victims of auto-suggestion, like their own suggestion, hypnotic suggestion to themselves, are really not self-aware of the condition of the body and the mind to understand their feelings. And what's happening is they're reacting from the limbic system. And the limbic system is the part of the brain that allows you to feel these things as if they're real.
Hair trigger, fight or flight. That's also where it's more connected to.
It's what permits you to feel the reality of the spirit world and then the sensations, but it's also what allows you to experience the fears of your mind as if they're real.
Yes.
So those two things happen in the same part of the brain.
Right.
So when you are not working on your self-growth, that's what comes out, and you're like, evil spirits are possessing me.
You haven't built that bridge in your brain to go to contemplate what is actually happening without automatic reaction. Okay,
Right.
That's what obsessed mediumship is all about. It's you're in automatic reaction, so you're going to go to fear.
So
right?
does it start? It starts first in the mind of the medium, and then it can come like a paranoid reaction, and then can it attract those sort of deceptive low-grade spirits? Sure. And because that's technically, so it's
because
kind
it's
of
part of your storyline, right?
Because it's already part of the storyline, so it's a three-part thing. You've got the mind of the medium.
Starts here.
You got the attaching significance
to the situation happening
because you're so in the emotions and the feelings, and then it's let's go fuck with this medium. So that's how it gets there,
right?
It's a process.
Yeah. So mediumship has a lot to do with developing self-awareness. And with that is your personal growth. This is why self-growth is so damned important. This is why we've built this bridge of what we do.
And it always has been. People have just lost it in the last 20 years. I don't see as much of it out there. So that's why we're kind of bringing it back. Because you got to know this. Because truth...
bringing bridges back.
The truth is, obsession does not happen to a stable... mentally okay,
sound
working on their
individual
stuff medium. It just doesn't.
And that goes with mediumship or just psychic information. Okay, anybody who is opening their gifts, anybody who is opening up to any of this subtle energy stuff, if you don't work on your stuff, it can go haywire, right? Gail says the twitching and shaking. When Heather first started talking about shaking, I took off with it. Yeah, I'm pretty quick on that. Anytime to act out, I will. In my work, I have people that start shaking in unwinding, digging up junk to release. Yeah, we've had that on our table very, very frequently, where you've got people who just kind of like go into intense somato-emotional releases, unwinding, whatever you want to call it.
What they're talking about is he does myofascial release.
Yeah.
And so when you have that in any kind of myofascial release therapy, like craniosacral therapy, which is what we do, is the body expresses emotions and can sometimes unwind it. It's kind of a cool process, but those kind of shaking sensations can happen as the body releases pent-up energy, and adrenaline can come out with it. So it's all kinds of stuff.
And the emotion
it's
and the old parts in the brain. Let's see. Can you speak a bit on emotional and spiritual connections, ethereal cords that can develop with clients? So emotional, spiritual connections, the cords. Anytime you have a cord with a client, you've got to take a look at where the root of that cord is in your development as a person doing any kind of work. So if you are overextended with a client's progress, with their success, with their healing, whatever it is, you're creating a cord because you want them to have a great experience. If you approach it from a place where you are neutral, where you are balanced, where you've worked on your stuff, and you provide the support for that client to take the session wherever they're ready to take the session, then there's less time for cords and attachments and things like that to develop.
Well, I think
that are unhealthy.
From the client perspective, as a therapist, and I'm not sure if we've done a video on the concept of transference.
We have not yet.
Okay, we'll do one.
It's on the books.
It's on my list. When you have clients, any kind of therapist, your client is in a healing space with you. They're very intimate. It's very vulnerable. And so they may transfer something onto you that they're trying to heal. Like you may represent a mother, a healthy father, a healthy hero archetype.
Or sometimes unhealthy.
Something that is missing in their life. So what may happen is they may attach to you like with that sort of emotion, and you can be that role for them in the moment in the session, but they may kind of like over-attach to you when they leave.
Right.
That's okay. That's part of their process. For you to attach back is when it's not healthy.
Yeah, that's on you.
So if you are recognizing that your client's going through a healing process, they're going to go through ranges of emotions, ranges of things. You are just there to facilitate in a neutral, compassionate way. If you approach your sessions that way, you will have very little problem with cords
or attachments.
When you do realize there's a cord, sometimes it's your subconscious trigger of something you have to resolve. So then you need to look at, okay, why did I allow that cord to attach? It's sort of a weird little spiritual codependence thing. So,
and we'll do another video on that.
Absolutely.
On that later. But another element to this is when at the end of a session, when you're wrapping up, if you can give something to empower the client and to make them feel like they are the purpose, the reason, the essence of their growth that they get to take with them, that goes a long way to countering the transference or countertransference, okay? So bringing the power back to them and giving it to them in an energetic way, in a personal way, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think this is a big issue, and a lot of, we address this in a lot of our advanced energy work
Zen Ed
courses
Academy,
in Zen
right.
Ed, deeper on how to not create these attachments or get rid
Or
of
how
them.
to bring them into balance,
Is that it really, I see this issue with a lot of healers in the healing arts, and it's really because we don't have a lot of standards within the natural intuitive healing arts.
Right.
But this is a standard thing when you go into psychotherapy and those kinds of things. You need to learn about this, and it's very important to bring it into our field because it's where most of the problems come from, with healers being overtired and exhausted and energetically drained.
Overworked, overextended.
Yeah, I mean, we all get tired from our jobs. That's a normal human thing, but it's because these
It shouldn't have the drama of drain.
Yeah, because these things aren't built into our field as a normal sort of the baseline training.
Ethical foundation.
You know, you see a lot more issues in the healing arts with attachment.
So Cheryl, I hope that has answered your question. Let us know in the comments whether that is gives you clarity.
I just feel like doing
I don't know
this
what that was.
I just ran with it. So tip number 3
You
is
kind of walked with it.
cast out all fear thoughts. I love this line, cast out all fear thoughts, because it's from the Wallace, and I love some of the old Victorian languaging that they used in a lot of the old spiritualism books and documents.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like how you solve this issue.
Right, because we've been talking about the issue, right? But how do you solve it? Okay.
How do you solve this issue? Well, the simple answer is to cast out all fear thoughts, right? I love that, how that's put, which is simple to say.
But it can be an ongoing process, right? It's not just a one-time thing. So we want to leave you with another Wallace nugget of wisdom, because it is just too juicy.
This is just too juicy.
All right? And my inner nerd is going to come out. My inner drama geek is going to come out.
Wow, because it's so nerdy and Victorian sounding. Here we go.
Are you ready?
Here it is.
Here we go. Fear hath torments, and the dread of the unknown is a sign of weakness born of ignorance. When we hold aloft the lamp of knowledge, we fearlessly tread the path. Spectres grim and devils dark disappear when we can see the realities of the spirit. Fear has caused many poor souls to conjure up phantoms with which they have tortured themselves, cringing in terror where they should have been bold and confident. Traditional theology, with its Satan and his emissaries, have been responsible for a great deal of the insanity and for many of the hysterical hallucinations under which so many sufferers have broken down. When unthinking and irrational people dabble with spiritualism, they often transfer their fear of the devil to fear of obsessing evil spirits.
I just can't with him. I feel like, were you like channeling E.W. Wallace right there? You just went to like a whole different thing there. Oh my God. So I didn't know you were going to like change accents and stuff.
Oh yeah. I said I was going full nerd.
You went full actor nerd on you. Yeah, E.W. Wallace, who wrote that, lived in the Victorian era, so it's very Victorian. Go back and listen to it again, because I love the quote, because it's basically calling people out 150 years ago about stop being superstitious dumbasses.
Right. So, I want a little bit of feedback on that. How was that acting wise? Give me a rating scale, 1 to 10.
Oh Lord,
how awesome was it?
We're always telling them they don't need validation. Now,
I want validation. I don't
validation.
need it. I'm just seeking it.
Hashtag validation seeking actor. In mediumship, although you are learning to be a passive receiver of information, true mediumship
is not a sub.
Is not submissive passivity. Okay, so there's a difference between being a passive receiver and submissively passive or totally self-surrendering to a dominating mind outside of yourself.
I'm just a vessel.
I'm not going to be able to stop him. It's basically the cultivation. True mediumship is the cultivation of spiritual faculties and elevating the consciousness until you get the positive power, until you acquire the positive power to receive or reject impressions that influence your personal psychic space, mental space, and emotional stability.
So master mediumship. Those teachers that have mastered it, right, have always advised to train the senses and learn to inhibit the discord that is not useful and unnecessary. Anything that doesn't fit, boom, out.
Right.
You don't belong here. Out, you damn spirits.
Dear God, I'm going to have to drop him at Shakespeare Fest. So
Cheryl says Rotten Tomatoes would give you an 83% on that.
And I'm going to say that 83% is pretty good, because that was totally unrehearsed and ad-libbed.
Yeah.
So it was kind of fun.
And one of my favorite things in acting is improv. So that was, thank you, Cheryl.
So because dwelling, dwelling on something or obsessing on the discord or the whatever the heck this is, brings obsession. And as our favorite Mr. and Mrs. Wallace said over a century ago, work on your self-growth.
Stop it with the superstition.
Stop being a drama queen. I'm just going to update their Victorian language into 2019. Stop being a drama queen. Stop it with the superstition. Satan's not trying to eat your head. Kick your fears to the curb as you develop your mediumship and focus on the good shit. That's basically it.
Out with the bad shit, in with the good shit.
Done and done.
Boom, boom.
So we do want to take this moment to shout out one of our Zen heads, Dee. Shared her experience with us on the Google machine. She said, I had complete terror of the other side to the point of it crippling me. Now I feel safe and carefree. Thank you so much, David and Heather. Yes!
Dude, we've learned that self-growth and developing your superpowers go together like sushi, Sapporo, and sake.
And that's why we created our signature subscription membership group, Zen Ed Academy.
Is this right for you? Are you tired of, wait for it,
people telling you that the intuitive arts are satanic?
Are you ready for psychic and mediumship training that will not scare the crap out of you? Zen Ed Academy is the rebel base. Gotta love the rebel base, where the revolution begins.
So Zen Ed Academy is where the science of self-growth meets the magic of mysticism.
If you like this video, hit that like button 5 times. Just kidding, once is good.
And if you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. That is where we get ideas for new videos that you want.
And for more mind hacking pro tips,
be sure to subscribe.
And clickety-click that bell to turn notifications on.
That was super swinging.
It was a bell. All right. We know that time is a valuable and precious resource, and the fact that you guys have chosen to spend that with us, we absolutely honor and appreciate that. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
See you in the next video.